Hey, I'm here.
Okay. We better this time?
I think so.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so you're host for now. Let me check and see if I can share my screen. Awesome. Okay. I don't know exactly how the screen share and all that, how the hosting stuff works yet. I'm still new to this, so I just wanted to double check and make sure.
Should I put up my screen recording?
I've already got it recording, so you can do it if you want. Let's check and see how that works. Um, you should have a
I
thing in the bottom that says you can start recording. I don't know if I have to give permission or not.
well, no, I actually have a software where I can record whatever the fuck I
Oh
want.
yeah, please do so then. Please do so then.
You want me to do that?
You bet, please. I always like an extra dump load.
All right, I'll
Especially
set that up.
yeah.
Keith, I never whatever got us into this Zoom. This is not supposed to be what we're supposed to be, and it's at least not where I wanted to be. But I am so glad to have you here, brother.
Awesome. Awesome.
You've
I feel appreciated and that's deeply felt, brother.
you've been working overtime.
For about 5 years, brother. I ain't got nothing else to do. They took my job out of it and said, okay, well, that's enough jobs I've lost over my lifetime. There's something wrong there. So let's work on something else. So I started doing his good works. And I think I'm being rewarded for it constantly. They leave me alone.
Well, I don't have a fake background. I'm living in a trailer. I'm living in a camper, and I'm so happy for it. But I'm like 5 minutes away from a beach if I walk slow.
Yes. Yes. That's always nice.
I got I got some stuff going on. So if you said it's okay, I'll screen record and you'll have a backup of a backup of a backup.
Awesome. I would always appreciate that, brother. Like I said, I appreciate that extra dump load because, especially if it's on the private side, because even the cloud and all that, that's still privatized through commerce. So, and that's why I did my WordWise Warriors under a .art extension. That way it's not to be commercialized at all unless I say so. They are my articles, they're my artworks, and that pertains directly to the creator content. So I think I'm pretty bold about it, but at the same time, I should be comfortable in it because that's what they state on their own record. You know, you can do those things. And so that's the way I'm going about it.
You know,
And just by doing that, I've got a worldwide recognition. So nobody should be able to rebut that.
Keith, you and I have met a couple years ago, about maybe three, maybe four, and to you didn't know who I was, and you wouldn't, but you sent me and emailed me documents and to help me upon my journey many times. You just didn't know who I was, and then video conference and Zoom calls and everything else. Um, I just got to tell you, you did help me, but you never knew my name. You never knew my face. You promised I'll send you the information tomorrow, and when you did it.
Yeah, and that's the important thing about the scriptures. You know, when a man makes his word, he's bound by them. So when we make our words in these contracts, we really have to bind the other party. We have to know what those bindings are. If we don't, we shouldn't be entering into those bonds. That's plain and simple. So,
Well, while you're giving me permission to record, I will try to set up my screen recorder. And we looks like we have David L showing up.
yes, welcome, brother. Good to see you
So
here. We're finalizing. Yeah, and it is after 8 o'clock. I don't like being late, so let's go ahead and get it started. We're going to go on with the last part of the Constitution of the Universal Postal Union. And this is one of the more important parts, but it's important that you go back and listen to the first two videos going over the whole Constitution. These are the first three videos, and they're the first three for a reason. It's the Constitution of the Universal Postal Union is so much more important than the Constitution of the United States because it points out succinctly the points of authority and how we contract ourselves. The Constitution of the United States does not do that. It ambiguates what the Universal Postal Union Constitution does. And we'll see in the Constitution, or we did see that the Constitution talks about the French franc, which I've later learned has been converted. Now they use the Swiss franc. And so we have to realize that. And so I've got to do a little further research on the Swiss franc weight. I believe it might be a little different than the French franc. I'm not sure. But other than that, everything is still the same basic element. So we're going to go on and continue with the final part of the Constitution. We left off last week with ratify Article 25. And what it was is they were talking about ratify. And when we talk about ratify, as I explained, each signatory country, and what that does is it puts a representative value because they use the term signatory, which is not the one that actually signs it, but it is a signatory country, meaning it is representative of the people that actually did sign it, but it is not them. Okay. So when they ratify it, and when we look up the term ratify, ratify means fixed. And then they say see rate. And this is why I talk about the Swiss franc and in the Senate document 43, contracts payable in gold. See, the government of the United States can't accept contracts in silver and gold. So they have to use Federal Reserve notes, which are now no longer known as promissory notes. And we operate on a money which is legal tender. In other words, it's a legal offer. And when we are operating under something that's already fixed, which is an offer he gave to us, and we accepted that offer, we can't give anything in an offering except that which is offered by him originally. So that means it has to cut out all the commercial stuff with persons because he's a respecter of no persons. Very simple and succinct. So when we make a legal offering, it has to revert back to the law that rebuts their legal assumptions in all realms. And that's basically how we ratify things. We tell them the fixed rate is this from the scripture. For a word fitly spoken is like golden apples in silver frames. So if you want to talk about your rates and fixed values for gold and silver, you'll have to speak in my words. And it kind of puts them straight, I would think. I haven't had any real experience at this in the courts, people, but I assure you, I practice it daily. And when it comes to actions speak louder than words, the better I practice it, the louder my words will be. So now we go on to 26, and it says notification of ratifications and other forms of approval of the acts of the union. Now, this is very pertinent to the next one, which is accession to the agreement. This tells us notification of ratifications. In other words, we're going to tell them our fixed rate and other form of approval of the acts. We approve their acts according to this fixed rate. We are not going to accede to that union, but we accept that their union operates in a fair capacity for persons. And when it comes to the person, we're going to correct that account from the name to the number. We're no longer going to use the name. We're going to use the number. And we'll talk about that later. So now we get to the instruments of ratification of the Constitution, and where appropriate. When we talk about appropriate, we're talking about a division. We're talking about appropriation of funds, of approval of the other acts of the union shall be addressed as soon as possible to the government of the Swiss Confederation. So as our brother David and I were speaking of earlier, this is where all of the forms of government are recognized, because it has to be done under the Constitution of the Universal Postal Union, which is constructed under the Uniform Customs Codes. So I don't care what anybody else's customs are, because we can create our own habits that are customary to us. And as long as we're not harming or charging somebody else and we give everything freely, they have no right to charge us in any sense. And that is their duty and obligation through a franking note. And that's the next thing we're going to be talking about. The next class or next sessions will be on the final protocol of the UPU, where we're going to go through all the different elements of the franking notes. So then it says, and by that government to the governments of member countries. So now we see that the Universal Postal Union is the world authority. It's a union of member countries that all agree that the Swiss Confederation is the most equitable on the international forum, because they all agree to a union, not to the government of the Swiss Confederation, but to a union, a labor workforce. And by that government, which is the Swiss Confederation, to the governments of member countries. So the government of the United States is a member country to the Universal Postal Union, and they are set to operate under that equitable franking note, a note for a note. And that's all we're going to do, is we're going to give them a note. We're not going to charge them anything. We're going to freely give them a note. Article 27 says accession to the agreements. And remember, we're talking about accession to the agreements. Member countries may, at any time, accede to one or more of the agreements provided for in Article 22, paragraph 4, which means you can agree and not agree to any number of the agreements within the union. You can agree that all of them seem to be fair for those that operate in commerce, because that's the only place it really has any effect when it comes to any value. Otherwise, everything is an obligation as a steward, a guard for each other, and not some commercial product, period. Accession of member countries to the agreements is notified in accordance with Article 11, paragraph 3. Accession of member countries to the agreements is notified. So if you want to ascend to those agreements, I'm not going to ascend to anything, because like I said, it's already fixed. I don't need to ascend. You wrote your Universal Postal Union regulations and all that, uniform custom codes and everything. All of that is a mirror image of the Bible. And when we talk about remittance, it's a taking. And when we talk about a tax, it's a giving. And everybody thinks that a tax is a taking and a remittance is a giving. That everything's backwards. Everything's mirrored. Remember that. Denunciation of an agreement. Member countries may at any time accede to one or more of the agreements provided for in Article 22, paragraph 4. The union is a construction of many agreements. So this says denunciation of an agreement, not the union, but the agreement, one of the agreements in. So you can ascend to the agreements and then turn around and change your mind and denunciate it. Or you can ascend to certain ones, but denounce others. It's a matter of contracting. That's all it is. So when it comes to all of their terms, make sure all of their terms are regulated for the person and not for yourself. I'm fixed. I stand my square. But when it comes to moving the person, the pawn, from square to square, it shall be protected just as well as I am protected from here on out. Because it's not going to be used by a name. It's going to use the number of the square that it's on. Remember how chess is played? It's played by numbers. Chapter 3, Amendment of the Acts of the Union. This is our part here, people.
Hey Keith, I'm doing my best to try to record all this, but my PC isn't setting me up for that. I had to restart twice.
Okay, we'll get as much as we can. Just know I got a pretty good one of these. I record most everything up here. So as we go on, it says, however, or excuse me, the amendment of the Acts of the Union. So we, as people, have to play an important role here because, remember, they're not going to make an amendment to the Acts of the Union to degrade it. The intent is always to improve it, and this is why we have to improve them. This is why we have to give them notification when we find something wrong in their amendments or their agreements, that we have to denounce those or prove that it's based upon a fixed rate. And that's what we're doing, is we're going to prove everything based on a fixed rate. Anytime we find something that can't correlate to that fixed rate, then we have to amend it by fixing it. That's our job, is to fix things. We are carpenters just like he is. Remember, Jesus said his father was a carpenter.
Yes.
Presentation of proposals. The postal administration of a member country has the right to present. If the postal administration of a member country has the right to present, then those that are not members of a member country, whether they have a postal administration or not, still have a right to present, either to Congress or between Congress, proposals concerning the acts of the Union to which its country is a party. Notice they capitalize country. I don't have a country. I'm stateless. I'm known as a stranger. We are known as pilgrims and strangers upon all lands on earth. So yeah, I agree with that. Whether you want to use capital letters or lower letters, I am not a country. I am a stranger, and that supersedes your presentation of the proposals. As a stranger, I'm a pilgrim and a stranger of our Father which art in heaven, and I have a right to fix what need be fixed. However, proposals concerning the Constitution and the general regulations may be submitted only to Congress, the Congress of the Universal Postal Union, not the Congress of the member country. Article 30, Amendment of the Constitution to be adopted. This is very important. This is where I learned the importance of adopting a record. I told somebody earlier today, I'm going to adopt the Library of Congress. Well, how are you going to do that? Why would you do that? Because I'm going to show that anytime they want to bring something up from the Library of Congress, Federal Register, that needs to be fixed, I'm going to fix the damn thing. And I have a right to, because I adopted it. Did you adopt it? No, you just presume it to be true. You're doing your job. Can you adopt it? Most certainly. But then remember, if you adopt it, you're mano y mano. You're on the same fucking playing board I am, and you better be able to know how to use that pawn like I do. It's all about contracting, people. It's not about quasi-contracting where one man gets a whole fucking country that's fiction behind him and says, well, he said. It's all hearsay. So let's fix it. My word is my bond, and my yea is my yea, my nay is my nay. It's all about contracting. To be adopted, proposals submitted to Congress and relating to this Constitution must be approved by at least 2/3 of the member countries of the Union. So this is where we flip the script on them up here at 27. where it says, or 26, notification of ratifications and other forms of approval of the acts of the union. This is where we adopt it. We adopt the parts that we are in agreement with by showing the adoption of their record pertaining to the biblical scripture. It's fixed right here. This is what I see like wording in this part of the constitutional agreement with like wording in the Bible right here. Boom, there's your contract. Amendments adopted by a Congress. I have the right to ingress and egress. That is my Congress. You get it now? It's all in the roots. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and for even forevermore. And when they want to use a term like ingress and egress, they have that easement to give them ingress and egress because of that postal address. It's all fiction, all of it. So amendment adopted by a Congress shall form the subject, substance over the form. So we have to come with our substance in the form of our Congress adopting their agreements to propose that additional protocol to fix it. Unless that Congress decides otherwise, shall enter into force at the same time as the acts renewed. I make all things new. I redeem thee. I call thy name, and thine are mine. In the course of the same Congress. They shall be ratified as soon as possible by member countries. If they want to become a member of my Congress, and I assure you they will, because they're already bound by it. They mirror the Bible, make them stick to it. And the instruments of such ratification shall be dealt with in accordance with the procedure laid down in Article 26. Our notice of our ratifications in our form according to our substance, which approves the acts of the union, so long as they find that they are similar with this biblical scripture. Period. Right there, they wrap themselves up in 5 pieces. Right there, 1 page, they wrapped themselves up. They went from start to finish. That took them right back to the start. And this page does the same thing for the entire document. This is your contract, your notification. What are you noticing them of? You're noticing them of the similar wording of their agreements that need to ascend or have ascended from biblical scripture. Pure and simple. You either agree that your law ascends from this, or you deny it. If you deny it, he denies you. If you deny him, then I must deny you as well. Sorry, take it or leave it. Period. Simple contracting, people. We don't have much longer to go, so I'm going to leave it up to you guys whether you want to continue on or read the rest of it yourself, because it's amendment of the convention, the general regulations and the agreements, and that's very specific, general. If you guys want to continue reading on, we can, but otherwise I'd like to leave it up to you guys and leave the rest of the session open to questions and answers. What do you guys think? Well, silence is acquiescence, so I'll continue.
May I ask a question, Keith?
Here, Lori, there you are. I knew somebody had a question.
Of course, it'd be me. Hi. So, when you're going through this, thank you for taking something that's so complex for me and making it comprehensive, as far as the way that the contract and ratifying it. And I'm curious, is this how they were able to go from, like, how they'll start out with a US code and make it positive law and trickle it down? Is this the same process that they do that with?
Yes, everything ascends down to the lowest level. Remember, people, your common law starts with your local community. That's the municipality. That's where they're offering up the municipal bonds. They last for 90 days. Now, if in 90 days they haven't succeeded in taking you to trial, guess what? That municipal bond is defunct. It gets paid off, but they can't go forward with the state bond. So if it is resolved within that 90 days, they issue that 90-day bond. And then when it comes back and matures, they attach it to that county bond, which now makes that county bond good for the state level court registry investment system. Once that bond sits for a year, then it gets sold to the federal government. And that's that 30-year bond that sits out there under that UCC lien. But every one of those bonds is still subject to that UCC lien because it's the municipality that's starting out by using the name of the man.
Wow, thank you so much. I really appreciate that description. I spent a long time trying to comprehend how they were able to do what they did as far as, like, codes to slip law to public law.
Yeah. Slip laws. They named them slip laws for a reason.
Right.
You get on that dock, you get kind of slippery if it's wet out. Anybody else? All right. Well, the rest of it, I'm just going to go ahead and read through then. Like I said, there's not really much that you can gain from this part except for learning how it's set forth in the event of a dispute between two or more postal administrations of member countries. Well, again, I'm not dealing with the postal administration of a member country. Up here, it tells me I'm supposed to deal with the Swiss Confederation. I'm not part of any of their systems. So how can I deal with a country that I'm not part of? I'm a standalone without state man. So we have to realize we are that independent, and that's the only way we can access anything. The first time we bow down to having to subject ourselves to the postmaster of this postal administration, we recognize his power without recognizing our own. We have to assert our own and pull him up to the equal station of being an equal guard of not just myself, but the person and myself all together, as well as other people and their persons. It's a big duty, but I accept it honorably. So anyway, it goes on, it says, the convention, the general regulations and the agreements define the conditions to be fulfilled for the approval of proposals which concern them. The agreements define the conditions to be fulfilled for the approval. So there are certain conditions that have to be fulfilled for an approval. That sounds like a ceremony of proposals which concern them. The acts referred to in paragraph 1 shall enter into force simultaneously. Equity acts in personam, face to face, in the now time. It does not wait. This is one of the things that kind of shows an inconsistency here in the agreements. And notice they got it capitalized. This is how we point this out. What is the definition of your agreements as capitalized here? That's denoting a specific definition. I want to know that definition of that agreement, because then it says to be fulfilled, while here it says enters into force simultaneously. So when does it enter into force simultaneously? Do we both have simultaneously equal force now? Or are you still trying to assert greater power than me? Because I'm not asserting any more power than he gives me. And shall have the same duration from this time forth and even forevermore. As from the day fixed, what is done is what ought be done. There is no new thing under the sun. By Congress, for the entry into force of these acts, the corresponding acts of the preceding Congress shall be abrogated. Abrogated means they're going to be accepted. Settlement of disputes. Again, I'm not in dispute. I'm in agreement to fix. If you want to fix things, if you want to prove your equitable thing, your equitable characteristics, then you have to admit that there's something wrong here. As I point out, notice is knowledge, and knowledge is not to be dismissed. Period. If you have knowledge of a thing and you dismiss it and say, well, no, I know this and I'm not going to research that no matter what you say, I'm going to wait until my boss says something. Again, it's not something that waits. It's something that happens now simultaneously. That's why we don't enter into that arbitration. You want to arbitrate, then we're talking about person. We're going to go to that chapter 15 bankruptcy, and you will pass those credits, transfer those credits from me, from you, not from the federal government, from you, yourself. You're coming after my legacy. I'm going to come after yours through chapter 15. If you want to forgive and forget, then we do it through the United States postal system for you, and under the above the Universal Postal Union Constitution and the Uniform Custom Codes that I agree have to ascend from my authority. See how that works? You're going to bring them right up to your level. I'm not going to ascend anymore.
May
Not
I ask
into-
you a question there?
Not
I'm
into
sorry.
their level. Go ahead.
Well, this raises a lot of questions for me. Like when I was doing the research with you and Malika on money, and the whole idea that Congress shall pay all the bills. This kind of switches my perspective of which Congress is supposed to be paying the bills.
Hey, can I
Good one.
interrupt?
Go ahead.
Can I interrupt?
Go ahead.
I think it's status.
Right. It's equal station. We just have to, see, people think they've got to correct their status. No, you just got to recognize your status and bring them up to yours. This is what equity is all about, is improving things. And this is why you can't waste time crying. You can't waste time trying to dig into to their laws to fix your tax records. You have to realize it's all been a mistake. You have to turn around. You have to go back, unlearn what you've learned, and re-educate yourself. And I know it seems like a lot.
Yes.
But
yes,
there are going to be many
yes.
people like myself as time goes on that are going to continue teaching this, and it's going to become exponentially easier, because as we show people, they will be removing themselves from that system and showing how much greater it is to teach our own children. That's the problem.
Well, hold on a second. The people that want to be removed out of the system, people like-minded like you and I, Keith, and everybody else, were can we agree, patriots?
See, again, when we talk about this denunciation and stuff, we got to get away from those words and get back to
Well,
the
are you Keith? Are you a Democrat?
No.
No, right. So patriots or anything else that is not part of what is going on, if we're all like-minded, all everything, I don't want to get into politics, but everybody on your channel, they like you.
Yeah.
They like you. Do you like Trump?
Well, I like Trump not because he's a politician. I like
Not,
Trump because of the way he speaks. And when it comes to that, it's to me, it's not a matter of politics, religion, or anything. It's the words we speak in everything.
yeah, I agreed. I put my hand up.
Yep.
So no, but you have to call the other side.
Right.
Are we concerned if we like Trump? You really don't have to like Trump. You have to like what he did.
Right. Right.
But
I
if you
like,
put it back to everything, we don't have Trump. He put everything in place, and then we have the Democrats. And I don't even want to use the word Democrats. We just have the popular agenda.
yes, it's that
We got
51% controlling the other 49. So that technically means there's 49 people controlling 49 people, leaving 2 more people to delegate everything over everybody. That's
I
what your
don't
democracy is.
I don't want to be listen. I've I use Trump words. I don't want to be a Trump person. I want to be a realist in everything that's going on. If somebody gives me a point of perspective that makes sense, I will follow you. But when it comes to, I don't know, what is it called, the radical left?
Yeah.
They do have some really good things going on. I don't want to be an asshole. They do have things going on, and they're right, but their leader is wrong. And they have
Yep.
to follow the leader and do everything else. And
Yep. You
that
see, that's why I say, people ask me, Keith, how come you choose such a hard path? I don't see any other path because I see everybody going down these political paths and the religious paths and the legal paths and educational paths. And it all leads to the same thing for me. That's all carnal stuff where people are wanting materialistic things because of notoriety. I
I
don't want
will.
any notoriety. I want which is natural. And for me, all of my life, every time I go outside, that's so much more uplifting than anything I have to deal with in any other part of life or ever
Well,
have.
would you classify yourself as a pacifist?
Oh no, I am a steward. I classify myself as a steward. Um,
Okay.
in
You
all aspects of life. Even when I know that he's a respecter of no persons, I still help other people that are caught in that personal realm and trying to do their tax stuff. I have to know that stuff so I can help them out. So I have to be a respecter of persons to find out what they're about first. But I don't have to give them credit. I just have to, in regards to respect, my term of respect is I have to review what is being stated so I can correct it. That's it.
all right. Maybe I misspoke for a second, but um, I'm a guy that didn't have a feeling or ever a need for guns, and now I want to warehouse my own personal set of guns.
That's fear, brother. That's fear.
No, no. Well, fear. It is fear. Come on.
Yeah. Don't lie to yourself.
Come
Don't lie
on,
to yourself.
man. Come on, man. Come on, man.
um, the man's most powerful weapon, folks, is your own mind, and it tells us even their own art of war, and they follow it to this day themselves. They don't want to fight. They'd rather beat you with the paperwork, and that's what we're thinking about. To
I
defeat
agree.
to
I
defeat
agree
one's
100%.
opponent to
100%. I agree.
to defeat one's opponent without fighting is of supreme excellence. So if we can get over the fear that they put in that paperwork and submit our own paperwork right back that defeats them, we don't have to put fear in them. We just have to defeat what they're putting to us and show them that we're in peace and we want them to be in peace too.
It's
That's the supreme excellence.
it's a closing window. You're allowed to submit paperwork, and once they shut that window down, that's my fear.
Well,
I don't wanna
it tells us in Isaiah 22, verse 22. Let me pull it up real quick.
Ken, please.
Keith, may I ask you a question while you're doing that?
Sure.
Um,
Go ahead, please ask. He said yes.
I was just curious. So then, where Congress is supposed to pay all debts, Congress shall pay all debts. I'm assuming then, that- correct?
I missed it. You broke up on me.
Oh, well, you know how it's written that Congress shall pay all debts?
Yes.
Okay, so it just occurred to me that because of the agreement that they have with the UPU, that the Congress that they're referring to is the UPU. And so I've been maybe wanting to send the bills to the wrong Congress.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, we've been talking about that for a
How
couple months now, right? We're going to send the bill to Congress. Now we know
Yes.
which Congress, don't we?
Hallelujah.
Okay, so back to David here real quick. Isaiah 22, verse 22. I'm going to read this slow. The key of the house of David I will lay on his shoulder, so he shall open, and no one shall shut, and he shall shut, and no one shall open. So if we shut the account down in the name, no one can open it. But if we open the account in the number, no one can shut it. We are allowed to give a number in lieu of the name and address. We need to start giving the number in lieu of the name and address by shutting down the name account and opening the number account. This is what everybody's screaming about with the TDA and all this. I keep trying to tell everybody it's not so much to do with the name, it's the number. It's uniform throughout all jurisdictions. They all know about that master number. It's the key. So
Right.
now the thing I read about in the postal terms, when we go to US postal terms, like I said, and we go down to the definition key, watch what this says, people.
You can do this for your followers, but I'm following.
Hey, see right here we have key, and it says to press numbered keys or other identifiers on a device that represents sortation information. Does that say to press a name? Does it say to press other identifiers and numbers? No, it says to press numbered keys or other identifiers. It's telling us right there to give them the numbered keys.